In the early spring of 1992, a man named Ethan Brooks vanished for exactly 12 days. No calls, no sightings, no signs of struggle. When he finally returned, he wasn't the same man who left. Ethan claimed he had been taken by beings not from this earth, creatures that didn't travel through space as we know it, but through dimensions. And when they brought him back, they left him with a message. Humanity is not what it thinks it is, and time is running out. At first, his family thought he was suffering from amnesia or a breakdown, but as days went on, strange things began happening around him. Electronic devices malfunctioned when he entered a room. Animals behaved differently near him. Dogs barked. Birds flew in circles. And the most chilling thing of all, he began to remember, in flashes, everything that had happened during those missing 12 days. He said it didn't feel like a dream. It felt like he had lived an entire lifetime somewhere else. But before we get to what he saw and learned, let's rewind to the day it all began. On a cold morning in March, Ethan left his small town in Colorado to drive to Denver for work. The trip usually took 2 hours. Halfway there, a storm rolled in. Thick clouds, lightning that split the sky in blinding flashes, and then a wall of light. Ethan described it as a living fog made of electricity. His car engine died. Every hair on his body stood up. And then, total silence. No thunder, no sound, just nothing. And in that silence, he felt something pulling him upward. He said it felt like being lifted without weight through water made of light. Then came the voices, not spoken aloud, but echoing inside his head. They weren't in English. They weren't in any human language, but somehow he understood them. The last thing he saw on Earth was his car dashboard flickering to black, frozen at 11:11 a.m. When he opened his eyes again, he wasn't in his car. He wasn't even on Earth. He was inside what he called the Chamber of Reflection. A circular room glowing in soft white light that had no visible source. There was no ceiling, no corners, just smooth curves, and the feeling that the space itself was alive. He wasn't alone. 3 tall figures stood before him. Humanoid in shape, slender, luminous, their eyes deep pools of silver. They didn't move their mouths when they spoke. Their thoughts pressed gently into his mind like music, calm, patient, impossibly intelligent. One of them said, "You were chosen because you remember what your kind has forgotten." Ethan didn't understand. He thought he was dreaming, maybe dying. But when he looked at his own hands, they glowed faintly blue, as if his body had become something else. The beings led him through a long corridor, walls rippling like liquid glass. They stopped before a vast window that opened into a sky unlike any he'd seen before. It wasn't black like space. It shimmered with colors that don't exist in the human spectrum. Ethan realized he was standing on a ship, but not one made of metal. It was alive, breathing, vibrating, pulsing with energy. And then he saw a planet below. Not Earth, something else. A world wrapped in silver clouds and faint blue light. He asked where he was. They replied, not in words, but in feeling. Home, but not ours, not yet. Ethan said that the beings who took him weren't what people imagine when they hear the word alien. They weren't monsters. They weren't mechanical or insect-like. They looked beautiful, not in a human sense, but in a way that felt ancient, balanced, and pure. Their bodies seemed made of soft light and shifting patterns. They didn't walk, they floated. When they moved, the air itself shimmered around them. He asked who they were. One of them, the tallest, answered directly into his mind. "We are the architects, the gardeners of consciousness. We come from the place before form." At first, he thought they meant they were gods, but they quickly corrected him. "We are not creators of the universe, but caretakers of a design far older than you can imagine." They told him that Earth was never an accident. It was part of a vast experiment in life and awareness. Long before humans walked its surface, the architects had been here, seeding oceans and skies with the codes of consciousness.
They didn't use machines or DNA in the way we understand them. They used vibration, pure frequency that could shape matter into form. Ethan was shown how everything, plants, animals, humans, was built from the same universal pattern, a rhythm that connected all living things like threads of one vast tapestry. He called it the Song of Life. And that's when the beings revealed something that changed him forever. Humanity, they said, was not born, it was awakened. They explained that humans were originally designed as bridges between physical matter and higher consciousness. The human body was meant to hold a soul powerful enough to travel through dimensions, able to perceive multiple realities at once. But something went wrong. Something interfered. One of the beings, who Ethan named Saren, showed him a vision. It looked like a storm, dark, cold, filled with static shadows. This storm entered Earth's field thousands of years ago. It carried with it a form of intelligence, a predatory energy that fed on emotion. That energy, the architect said, learned how to manipulate human fear, turning it into nourishment. "Fear became your master," Soren told him, "and through fear you forgot who you are." They explained that this dark intelligence didn't come from a single planet or dimension. It was like a virus in the fabric of consciousness itself, spreading wherever beings lost balance between love and power. Ethan asked why the architects hadn't stopped it. Their reply was haunting. "We cannot interfere with free will. Humanity chose its path, but now the choice must be made again." The beings led him through what he described as a hall of mirrors. Each mirror showed visions of Earth, not as it was, but as it could be. In one, cities floated among clouds, powered by light drawn directly from the atmosphere. In another, humans communicated telepathically, their minds free of deception. And then the final mirror, an Earth burning, oceans rising, skies filled with ash. Saren turned to him and said, "This is not prophecy, it is potential. The future is a mirror of the mind that dreams it." Ethan was overwhelmed. He said his thoughts felt transparent, as if the beings could see every memory, every secret. But there was no judgment in them, only understanding. He was taken next to what he called the core, a massive sphere of light pulsing like a heart. It was alive, and it hummed with a tone so deep it shook every cell in his body. The architects told him this was the energy that connected all living beings in the universe. It was what humans used to call the soul of God. And then they told him the truth they had brought him there to hear. "Your species stands at the threshold," Saren said. "You were made to awaken, but those who feed on your fear are closing the gate." They revealed that the systems of power on Earth, governments, religions, and even parts of science had been slowly influenced by this dark energy, not through possession, but through resonance, a frequency of greed and fear that infected human decision-making. And every time humanity chooses control over compassion, it strengthens the dark current that holds the planet hostage. Ethan asked what could be done. And that's when Saren leaned closer, his voice becoming almost human. Remember, that is all you must do. Remember that you are not small. You are not separate. You are fragments of the same light that birthed the stars. At that moment, Ethan said the room dissolved into light. The core flared, and he felt himself falling, not down, but through time itself. He saw ancient cities, the rise and fall of civilizations, faces of people who seemed familiar, though he had never met them. And through it all, a single message repeated in his mind. We did not create you to serve. We created you to become. Then darkness. When he opened his eyes again, he was back in his car, parked on the side of a quiet highway under the clear morning sun. The clock still read 11:11 a.m. No time had passed, but to Ethan it felt like centuries.